Hi, everybody, and welcome to another episode of 6 Degrees of Associations. We are excited to be talking today to Natasha Bethea. She is the Senior Director of Marketing and Membership for the Information Technology Industry Council. Did I nail it?
Yes.
Okay, good. Hi, Lucas. Hi, Natasha. Thanks so much for being with us today.
Glad to be here.
Glad to be here as well.
Yeah, we were excited about this when we interviewed Alexis Redmond. She recommended you, and we're excited to dive into your career. I know that certainly Lucas and I immediately picked up on the fact that you have marketing and membership in your title. And we talked a little bit before this about your purpose-driven leadership and such. I'm just wondering how that's all come to be in your career, from starting in marketing to working in nonprofit, and maybe if you can take us on a little journey about what you're leading with right now and what's really your focus.
Absolutely. So when I began my career, I started off in strictly marketing, and we always had this big dream where we want to work for this big marketing firm and have this corner office and live the dream. But as I started going through my career, I realized that I wanted to make more impact. I find fulfillment in helping people, whether it be helping causes or, helping industries. And that's kind of how I fell into the association space, because we are a mission-based, industry. And one of the models that I always go by is living in purpose on purpose. So I just bring passion into what I do, and I want to help people. So that's, how I fell into this space. And then with, membership, it was kind of an easy fit because I love building relationships, and that's what membership is all about. When you're recruiting, when you're retaining your members, and when you're engaging with them, you have to be able to build relationships with them and figure out what their needs are so you can help them move forward. So that's kind of how I fell into the marketing and membership, and they both go together as well. So
They do. There's a strong connection there, and I think while you're in marketing and membership now, I think your passion, as we learned pre-call, is going to take you to a lot of different places. And I would like to jump in and sort of ask a question about how you apply your passion on the membership side. But then after that, I kind of want to shift gears, because you had mentioned some mentoring that you're doing that I think is really, really interesting, that I'd like to use. But talking about membership, how do you take that passion that you have, and how does it sort of purvey its way into your current role in membership and marketing?
Yeah, absolutely. So as I mentioned, I love building relationships. So, even when I started my organization, I've been there since the end of 2019. So right before the pandemic, it was really important for me to kind of get to know our board members, get to know our committee members, to figure out what their needs are, what are their most pressing issues, what will make their life better, and then kind of bridge the gap of how I can help them achieve those things. And I'm always excited to do something new and to meet a challenge. So, from there, I've started introducing new membership programs to kind of, figure out what our members need. So I'll just quickly say 3 programs that I've started. So number 1 was a virtual briefing program, and that was just individual sessions that our member companies can have with our staff to, really dig down deep into their needs and, how we can support them. After that, I started an awards program, which was, a recognition to show all of the great things that are happening in the technology industry. A lot of times tech gets a bad rep, but it's a lot of good things that come out of tech. We have our members doing things around diversity, equity, and inclusion, corporate social responsibility, and international advocacy. So I wanted to highlight those things. And last but not least is starting a diversity leadership program, which would help build a pipeline of diverse talent in our industry, so we can still, keep being competitive, and we can, look outside of, where we normally find talent, whether it be, working with HBCUs and different communities to kind of help and mentor and build that group. So that's kind of where all that passion comes from and where I do it at work.
Yeah, we focus on a lot of sales in our organization. So we're selling memberships and sponsorships and exhibits, and we're positioning affinity programs as a way to attract members in. But often, not often, sometimes in some cases, we hand it over to membership and things sort of get lost. And what I find is there's sort of these silos within associations oftentimes where membership doesn't necessarily speak to the other programs or doesn't speak to this department or that department. But what you mentioned is sort of an integrator role where you are bridging the gaps.
Yes.
And can you talk a little bit about how that's benefited your organization and maybe some points where there's still opportunity?
Yeah, I wouldn't be able to do my job if I didn't collaborate all across the organization. It's important for me to know, what our teams are working on, and being able to bring that to our members. I can't sit there and say, well, I don't know what our GR team is working on. I don't know what our policy team is working on. Like, it's important for me to know those things. And then also to make those connections between our employees that are working on various areas in association to our members. I don't want to be the only one that they can come to. I want them to feel comfortable to know, oh, I can go to this person to get what I need, or, I can reach out to this person to follow up on a policy area that I want. So I think it's important for that collaboration. And I think it just makes us a stronger organization when we work together. I think, going through the pandemic has made it challenging to kind of really be able to collaborate, but I think we've been able to still stay connected. And I think it's a part of my CEO made sure that we'll always have virtual events, just to keep staff together, and not just on the work things, but on a personal level. And with that, we can work better. So I think it's important to always have those opportunities for employees to be able to connect and learn about each other.
That's great. How do you all within your organization sort of make that an intentional part of how you all do your culture?
Well, we have culture groups where we kind of work together on different things. We have an engagement group and we have an education group. So we'll both work together to create opportunities for staff, whether it be the education group came up with some great TED Talks to kind of bring us together, so we can discuss, various issues in society, which I thought was good, learning about other people's perspectives. And then within the engagement group, we had a project of working on a diversity statement for our organization. And just through that work, we're figuring out what our values are, what brings us together, what we want our culture to be, and being able to communicate that throughout the whole organization. I think that really brings us together. So I feel like we're always doing something, intentional to bring that camaraderie together, bring that teamwork and collaboration. And I think that's how we work well.
That's great.
I'm curious, if you don't mind me jumping in, Lucas, but, you specifically mentioned sort of authentic and purposeful leadership when we were talking in the buildup. And I think it's always, it seems from the way that you discuss of what the programs you've brought into play, especially in this last position, that you are showing up authentically and purposefully in your own self. And therefore that is being able to be seen throughout the organization and the work that you're doing. Can you talk a little bit about what were some of the barriers for you to bring that perspective to the role, and then make sure that it is felt throughout the work that you're doing with your members and your, CEO and board members and so on and so forth?
Yeah, I really think that just in a membership role, people buy into people. And I think just being able to come through authentically, not sounding like a robot or, this is what we do and this is how it's going to be done, but having a personality goes a long way, which is very important. And I always want to work at an organization where I can show up as myself. I don't have to change. I don't have to assimilate. I can stand out. And I believe, working at my current association, I can do that. And I encourage other people to do that as well. We've had consultants come in and trainers come in over the past year talking about authentic leadership. So I think, my job is very intentional in making sure that people feel comfortable. People can, show up who they fully are. They don't have to change. Like, everyone is unique, and we want to bring all those unique abilities, unique talents to really push our organization forward. So I think it's important for authentic leadership to kind of be a trend, and not even a trend, but a culture of what every association should have.
Well, and the information technology industry as a whole is certainly also, it seems like you've keyed in on something that's specific to that industry that a lot of people are finally opening up, is how diverse, neurodivergent, ethnically divergent, gender divergent on who is actually capable of working within that industry. And certainly over the last 2 years, there's been so many conversations about how that industry of all industries has really opened up. And been able to see maybe all of the different potential gaps they were missing in talent and where they can find them. So I think that that's really special that that was already something that was on your heart and what your purpose was, and you're able to bring it within an industry that really needs it and is actually ripe for the time. Have you felt that that specifically feels more in line with this particular industry than perhaps some of the other industries you've worked in before?
I would say that it feels super aligned here, other than another industry that I've worked in. Prior to here, I worked with nurses, which, they have their own challenges that they face, but I always like to problem solve. So, so when I was working with nurses, the issue with them was that they didn't take care of themselves. They took care of people, and sometimes they will put their health on the back burner, which I was just like, you know what, we're going to figure out something. So we started an initiative to get them moving, get them working out, get them eating healthy, which became very popular. And now just coming into the tech space, in which is so ironic, what resonated with me outside of just, bringing in diverse voices is I'm a new mother. So just the transition from being a mom in the workplace and, all of the, barriers that we face, and how, sometimes we have to take a step back to, get our careers going when we're trying to, be a mother as well. I wanted to push the tech industry to say, hey, show the opportunities you have for working mothers, show what's possible and how you can do both. And you can have it all too. You don't have to, put your career on the back burner and, lose that work-life balance. And I think a lot of our member companies see that, which we did an event on that during the pandemic as well. But I always want to find those opportunities where I can just highlight things that where you could push, our industry forward.
That's great. I also think when I hear the authentic leadership, a lot of times we think about ourselves outwardly being ourselves, but there's a sort of a two-way street, right? You also have to be open to receiving the authenticity of others within that culture. So not just thinking about yourself, but also the accepting, right? It's one thing to be confident enough to be yourself. It's another thing to be accepting enough to be open to everybody else's authenticity, recognizing their talents, and then pulling those into a collaborative space.
Exactly.
Yeah. So shifting gears, because I said I would, going back to your passion for I'll say the personal side, although you've kind of weaving it in really, really well. You do some mentoring. Could you tell us a little bit about that part of your role, your career, yourself?
Yes, mentoring is definitely a passion of mine, and it really comes from my experience having mentors. I have several of them, which I reach out to for, different things that I need help with. And it was just important for me to kind of help, women build sustainable narratives about themselves, be able to show up with power, brilliance, and authenticity, to, really show their professional presence. I think it's tough navigating your career. So I think just having someone that they can relate to, like myself, I think I just been able to help a lot of people, and I'm really passionate about that, whether it be at work, outside of work. I've kind of built a small community of women who I have helped to inspire, motivate, and really empower.
It's so rewarding. One, as the mentee, to receive sort of the knowledge and the guidance, but also as the mentor. You mentioned like when somebody does kind of come back to you, or you see something happening in someone's life or career as a result. I mean, there's very few things in life professionally that are more rewarding than that. You'll find out as a mother on the personal side. There's stuff that outweighs all of that. But professionally, talk about, that experience for you.
It's always, and I don't know why it surprises me every time, because the women that I work with are brilliant, but it always makes me happy when I see them, taking on new roles, getting new bigger, positions, and starting grad school or getting in these new professional programs and these recognitions. It's like, wow, and they always had it inside of themselves. Sometimes you just need somebody to pull it out. But it just really, lights my spirit. And I know that what I'm doing is actually making an impact, and I'm being purposeful and intentional about it. And that's just what I want to do. Every space I walk into, I want to make the people around me better. So it's my job to kind of uplift, and I just get so fired up about it.
That's great.
I love that.
It's sort of an individual one-on-one piece sometimes, but you have to sort of stand back and appreciate the global impact on a macro level that you are impacting the culture, which is, a bigger piece in some cases. And I asked you earlier before the call, how do you measure the success, and are there numbers that you can drive in? And you had shared sort of a practice that you have of keeping track so that you can go back. Like, can you speak a little bit about that?
Yeah. So what I mentioned is one of the things that challenges me, which challenges a lot of people, is imposter syndrome. Sometimes I don't feel like I'm being impactful enough, or I just, kind of talk myself down or second guess myself. And I think it's really important, and which has really helped me, is to track my accomplishments, to see how far I have come. And, I look back and always keep this list updated, to know, like, okay, actually, in the past 6 months, I was able to do, X, Y, and Z, and get this recognition and get this accomplishment checked off. So it's always important to kind of track those things. And a lot of times we don't do that, especially when it comes to, promotion time, and it comes to time to get a raise. Sometimes we leave it to our boss to be like, well, I know they kept track of what I did, but that's not always the case. They're keeping track of their own accomplishments. So you can't be able to effectively advocate for yourself if you can't remember what you did.
They're not always keeping track of yours necessarily.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, they have their own story about.
Professionally, keeping track of those accomplishments, I think, sort of warms the spirit. It keeps you confident. You can go back, you can point to those things, because again, I mentioned, like, a lot of people facing forward, you could look back and have a tendency to look at the failures, or you could look back and have a tendency to look at the accomplishments. And having that list, I think, for some would be really important. I'm not a mother, obviously, but on the motherly side, I think Erin would also encourage you probably to do the same thing personally, because that part of your life you could beat yourself up in the same, or have imposter syndrome.
Oh yeah, I mean that's definitely
make a
once
list.
I leave one job, I have that job.
Yeah, exactly, right.
You could write a book about both, and it'd be a national bestseller.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I love this conversation. And as usual, I always have to be the Debbie Downer that has to end our conversations, but I want to be respectful of our time. And really quickly, Natasha, though, you do have an Instagram and Instagram and TikTok handle that people can follow. What is it? Let's make sure people know about it.
It's called Professionally Brilliant, and it's on Instagram and it's on TikTok. And through those platforms, I give out career advice, whether sharing my experience of what I've been through navigating in my career, or just advice on how you can kind of show up powerfully and really get the results you want in the work.
Awesome. Okay. Well, all of our listeners, please make sure you go and check that out. But before we let you go, because of course we wouldn't have been able to meet you if Alexis Redmond hadn't been nice enough to introduce us to you, who would you think we should speak with in the industry that our listeners could benefit from?
So I think you all should speak with Anikia Brown. She is the Communications and Marketing Manager at the National League for Nursing, and she's also the president of the Washington, D.C. chapter of the Association for Women in Communications. So she's doing a good job. So I just want you all to reach out to her.
An underachiever, it sounds like. Yeah. It's too bad we're always talking to these underachievers. My gosh, you guys make me feel like I need to get started on some stuff.
Get going on some stuff. That's right.
What a joy to speak with you, Natasha. And in case you have your imposter syndrome going on right now, we can assure you, you are being impactful and authentic and purposeful. And we really appreciate you bringing that spirit onto this show. Lucas, it was great to see you again. And for all the rest of you and Anika, we will be coming for you. So thanks everyone for tuning in today.